Hello, everybody. Happy
Hey, happy
Friday.
Friday.
It's so good to be here with you on the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo,
I am Anthony Ihrig.
and joining us today from California, Robbie Fulks. Hi, Robbie.
Hello.
Hey, Robbie.
So that banjo player on the hold music or whatever you call it, if I tried to guess who that was, would I be able to, or is it just really hard to guess?
I think you might be able to. It might be that guy in the upper right corner.
That's Tony.
Uh,
Man, that
Yeah.
that sounded great. I don't mean to look surprised. I was just going to guess much more, internationally known, but yeah, that sounded great.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Robbie. I really appreciate that.
That's from Tony Ihrig's solo album, which has amazing songwriting as well on it. So if folks out there haven't checked it out, they should. It's really
Who
good.
played the mandolin?
That's Jed Germond. He's a local mandolinist and fiddle player and luthier here in the Twin Cities.
Cool, man. Yeah, you've got a rich thing going up there, bluegrass-wise, in the Twin Cities. And I have to ask you, just because the rest of us in the world watching the news, is stuff like secure and functioning and stuff these days in the Twin Cities, and life goes on?
Life goes on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Tony and I both live in South Minneapolis, not too far from where some of the action was earlier this summer. But the neighborhoods are really tight and things are moving and
Yeah.
rebuilding and hopefully changing. So
Yeah. Yep,
and
get
we're
out,
really
get out and
happy.
vote.
Yes, yes. We will say that. And I again want to shout out to everyone joining us early today, or right on time on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Ann and Connie and Chris and Alan from Texas, all folks joining in on the Back Catalog Listening Party. This is your weekly check-in. So it means it's 4 p.m. Central. Friday.
So we know what day of the week it is.
It's the only time we know what day of the week it is, really. And so it means it's time for a cheers. And I don't know what you all are drinking out there. Shoot us what you're drinking in the comments. I am drinking in honor of, I got a bottle delivered to me the other day, a bottle of Glenfiddich. And because I have a very cool gig on Tuesday, it's a Scotch tasting and conversation on Instagram. So I got a free bottle. So,
Nice.
Robbie, I
That
know
sounds
you're
very millennial.
I know, right? Robbie, I know you're more of a rye guy, but I have to say, Scotch is tasting pretty good today. So,
It's all good.
Slancha. What are
And
you
Glenn
drinking?
Fiddick is the correct pronunciation, or
I
are you
actually
a Van Gogh kind of a person?
No, I looked it up. Actually, I went to a YouTube video because I didn't want to embarrass myself on this thing coming up. So, because I was just like Glenfiddich, I don't know.
Me too.
And apparently it's Glenfiddich, kind of like Loch
Good to
Lomond.
know, yeah. Nobody
So
says the Loch
apparently-
Ness.
Yeah,
monster.
so Glenfiddich would be kind of closer, but it still wouldn't quite be correct. It's Glenfiddich, but it's kind of hard to say. So I'm working on it.
Say that again?
Glenfiddich.
Glenfiddich.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm working on it. But I'm sure we'll get better the more I drink it. But Robbie, what are you having over there in
I'm having
California?
a Reed's ginger ale. It's,
Oh, I love that. That's one of my favorites.
That's
Very
been probably the best thing about coming here is that I'd never heard of this thing before I got here to the coast, and now I have it every day.
Awesome.
Nice. I'm heading over to Northeast Minneapolis here to the Sociable Cider Works in honor of fall. I love a good dry apple cider. This is the
Nice.
freewheeler from the Social.
So
Nice.
no alcohol?
Yeah, it's a hard cider actually.
Oh, hard cider. Okay.
Well, cheers, everybody. And
Yeah,
it
cheers
looks
to you
like folks
guys.
are drinking, Alex drinking gin and tonic, Joe, a Sierra Nevada, and of course, Alan every week with the G&T with local Dallas gin. So, oh, and Matt says, Robbie's showing off the Columbia Pride. Go Lions. So
Yeah, Matt from Champaign, right?
That's
The same
right.
Event we were just talking about. Hey, Matt.
yeah, we were just talking about the Champaign Urbana Folk and Roots Festival right before he came on, and that was the last time I saw Robbie. And he asked, "Why are you in California?" Because a lot of folks know of you as based in the Chicago area.
Shall I field that question? Am I the
Yeah.
guy to do
Yes.
this?
Yeah.
I think so.
I don't know. I'm here. We're here because our youngest kid went off to college, and we thought, where would we like to be? Maybe somewhere other than Chicago, where I was for 36 years. So we ended up here, and we love it.
Nice. Wonderful. Well, wherever you guys are tuning in from today, and Matt corrected us, Urbana, not Champaign. Important distinction. It's like mixing up Minneapolis and St. Paul. You don't want to do that.
Right.
Anyway, well, thank you all for joining us. We're so excited today to revisit Robbie's 2013 release, Gone Away Backward. And yeah, before we get started, Robbie, maybe you could tell people who are maybe less familiar with your music a little bit about your background and kind of what led up to this album.
Well, when I was a kid, I was a big folk and bluegrass nut, and then as I grew, I diversified. And by the time that I was started to make records under my own name, I did kind of I was fresh in thrall to Buck Owens, Bakersfield, sort of honky-tonk country, electrified country music, and that sustained me for several years. But this record that we're looking at today is the 9th or 10th one. I think that I put out, and it's kind of right after a hard chapter break in my thing, where I decided that chapter was kind of going to be closed of the country rock. I was touring, for instance, maybe 100 and some days a year with a quartet that had drums and electric guitar, and it was making me deaf and also, it was a little bit too much the same thing day after day, a little Groundhog Day-ish. So I decided the way that I'd want to go is to do string instruments and play into microphones, make it quieter, and focus on writing songs that had some reflectiveness in them, some philosophy and some memoir and maybe some sociological observation. And I mean, this all sounds like a really grim project, but but a little humor as well, and to play for audiences that were kind of quiet and in chairs and listening. You know, it's like you get to the age where that seems okay to do, and so this is my first record in that chapter.
Wonderful.
Awesome. And I mean, we share some common roots here with that bluegrass, and I just have to kind of put it out there for those of you who know me. I play in a band that at once had a member of the same band as Robbie's, and that would be Special Consensus out of Chicago. And when I was listening to this album, I was hearing a lot of that bluegrass stuff coming out. And I'm just curious, just a little before we get into the record, because I feel like it's a thread throughout this entire album, whether it's the harmonies or the instrumentation. Where did that first hit you, the bluegrass bug? Where was that you mentioned kind of growing up on it, but was that something that was played in your house? Were you picking, fiddle tunes with the family? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I would say most of the above. I think the first, sounds that I remember hearing were either, sounds of the folk scare from the 60s, which my parents were into, Pat Sky and Gordon Lightfoot and Ian Sylvie and these people. But also on the other end of it was Doc Watson, the Country Gentleman, Seldom Seen, Flatt and Scruggs, all these people. And Bill Monroe actually didn't get in there until a little bit later in my life. But a lot of these second generation people, and I should mention like the Osborne brothers and Jim and Jesse, what are called the second generation people from the 60s that kind of refined and polished what Bill Monroe set up, in the late 40s. And then when I started getting a little like teenage years, it was such a rich time in bluegrass because it was really open-ended, and people like John Hartford and Sam Bush, Newgrass Revival, Tony Trischka really started expanding the palette for people that aren't bluegrass nuts. I mean, I guess this is roughly equivalent to the 60s in rock music, where just so much exploded and so much seemed possible. And in the context of bluegrass music, which tends to be kind of stodgy and conservative as far as music genres go, this was doubly exciting in the 70s. Yeah, that's my rootedness in it.
That's cool. That was just a little personal question I really wanted to know. Because as people listen to the different tracks we're going to spin off this album, they're going to hear a good thread of bluegrass through them, and country and so many other influences. Speaking of which, the first track we have lined up is I'll Trade You Money for Wine. Is there anything you want to say about that before we dive into it? Or do you want to talk about it afterwards?
Yeah, I don't know. We can hear it and see what the two things about this song. The writing wise, it's really it really cops Danny Barnes feel. I was working with him
I love
right
Danny
around
Barnes.
this time, and then playing wise, I'm doing a claw hammer thing on the guitar, and it's just me and Jenny Scheinman. She plays the fiddle, the two of us.
Fantastic. All right, folks. This is Robbie Fulks. I'll trade you money for wine on the back catalog listening party.
Corn in the crib won't turn your dollar green. Dollar won't get you high. Some days a drop is all a body needs. Some days the bottle drains dry. Pockets of change don't drive my worry down. Diamonds don't make me shine. It's a short life and a long time underground. I'll trade you money for wine. I've seen your towns from a long black Lincoln, boys, back when copper was king. 10 years I've stood on the same old corner, boys. I never won for a thing. Pockets of change don't drive my worry down. Diamonds don't make me shine. It's a short life and a long time underground. I won't trade you money for wine. Wild were the nights when I was rolling, boy. No hunger unsatisfied. Fear was my name in Elko County, boys. Now they just walk on by. The banker, he spares a quarter for my cup. His trouble's deeper than mine. That way of life, boys, there ain't gold enough. I'll trade you money for wine. See how the rain washes the sulfur dust off to the wide blue sea. Freed from the rock, the copper flies to where no miner ever may see. Shallow your cares and vain your industries, so says the wide blue sea. Well, I never burden God on your account. Don't waste your prayers on me. I've seen a man of wealth and family scrimp till his hair's gone gray, laid in the ground just like I'm gonna be. He might have drunk it away. Pockets of change don't drive my worry down. Diamonds don't make me shine. It's a short life and a long time underground. I'll trade you money for wine.
Robbie Fulks here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. The first track from his 2013 release, Gone Away Backward, that was I'll Trade You Money for Wine. And wow, I love that the movement that you get from doing a clawhammer guitar style. What inspired you to do clawhammer on the guitar? Obviously, it's most folks know it as a banjo style of playing. So what made you choose to do it that way?
I don't really know, Ellen. It's I know at the time I was only a few years into learning clawhammer and banjo, so maybe that had something to do with it. And I know that I thought that at the time, like, oh, I'm kind of inventing something. You know, I thought, oh, I'm doing something I haven't heard before, and that turned out to be not true at all. There's a record called America's 16 Best Clawhammer Guitar Players that somebody showed me not long afterward.
Well, it definitely has that kind of old time vibe, for people in our world. We know this distinction, and that sparseness, the drone of the fiddle that sounds like, bagpipes or something. We got foot percussion. I can hear the bouncing off the room. Was this all done in one room, like with one microphone kind of thing, or is that just the effect of the production?
I think there were 2 or 3 microphones, but yeah, we were close to one another, and I was tapping my foot, as you can hear. So that engineer that recorded this, his name's Steve Albini, and he's better known for like rock records or punk records. But I like working with him on this style of music. And I was remembering when you were playing it that we had a session maybe 13 or 14 years before this session, where I had a similar song. It was like kind of a song that sounded like 1917, and it was just me and a resonator guitar solo. And he came down to where I was playing, and he set up a single microphone on a stand about 6 or 7 feet from where I was sitting in a chair. And I thought, what the hell are you doing? And then listening to it, I couldn't believe what he did. I mean, and who thinks of setting a microphone at that distance? One microphone away from a guitar and a voice. In my experience, nobody thinks of it but him, and he has a real knack for getting sounds that are like just sound 100 years old and unaffected and kind of not easy on the ear exactly, but mellow too, as you can hear from the fiddle and guitar sounds on that song. There's a nice analog mellowness to it.
Yeah, it has that way.
Like a warmth to it, which sometimes some of the old timey recordings feel like kind of the opposite. They feel very chilly, if you will.
Right.
But yeah, it sounds great.
Ellen, you mentioned it's the first track on the record, but I was digging into my record version of it, and I probably can't see it with the lighting, but it's not the first track on my record. It is on the digital one, but not the LP. And I was curious if Robbie could talk about that. Was that a stylistic decision? Was it a goof up? Did you come up with a different order for one or the other?
No, it was desperation because the capacity of the LP is less, so that sometimes you have to pick a song or two not to include. And there was one song that it was a hard choice, but I took off one song, and that just totally fucked. Can I say fucked? Or
sure, yeah.
Totally messed up. Totally messed up the delicate order. There's just a few fast, entertaining songs on that, and once you take something out of the pile, it says, "Oh no, how do we rearrange it?"
Yeah, it's like a Jenga. Like you pull one piece out and it all falls apart. So you have to rebuild it.
It's like the old mixtape days where every song relies on the other. But I've been listening to this, for years, and when I downloaded the digital version for this show, it's so weird how song order affects your perception of it, and it felt like a completely different album. So
what's the first one on the record?
On the record, it's "Long I Ride."
Oh, right.
Which we're going to hear coming up here. But it's so interesting because I might need to get your order, Tony, of what's on the record. So
Let's
I can
put that in the show notes. Let's put that in the comments.
The 2 orders so people can see what they like better on the thing.
I really like this.
But also the other thing you have to factor when you're doing an LP is, which you used to have to do for cassette tapes too, is just where the side ends. There's going to be a different kind of gap in between those 2 songs than there is for like a digital version where it just goes on through. So Yeah, so I'll be curious to see what that order is, Tony.
Yeah, it's
I had a
different
lot
experience.
less flexibility on this record than I wanted to have, because I think we recorded 18 or 19 songs, and you know, a lot of times when you're pretty sure which ones are going to fly, and then you also have a little group of songs that, well, maybe that'll work. If that works, that'll be nice, but I'm not sure. And with this record, we just ended up with a bare minimum. I don't know why, but we ended up with 12. I think it was 12 workable songs, and we had 6 or 7 throwaways that just didn't work at all. And of the 12, like 2 were instrumentals, and most of them were quiet and kind of slow. And so that's the reason that, you know, my hands were kind of tied with this running order. I really had to space it out so that it wouldn't put you to sleep as it went along.
But it
Well,
also
it didn't put me to sleep. That's for
no,
sure.
and it tells this there is this kind of lost art of listening to songs together as a piece, and yeah, so highly recommended, folks. We'll put that order in, and you can hear 2 different ways of listening to the same album.
And if folks want to get either, do you still have LP versions of this album on your website that if people wanted that version of the?
I do,
album?
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. As
Wait, okay.
unfamiliar as I am with the LP, now that you mentioned it, I haven't listened to it since it came back from the masterer. I don't think all those years ago, but yeah, I have that.
It sounds phenomenal, folks. Oh,
good.
Yeah, that was another thing that took me aback. It sounded different when I listened to the digital, and you know, people kind of say, "Oh, I don't know, can you really tell the difference between those?" But it might have been mastered differently for the vinyl, and it's like that organicness, that analog feel. I just highly recommend everybody go RobbieFulks.com/new products and grab this old product.
And Tony, I might just need to, if someone sneaks into your house late at night and is roughly through your LP collection, it could be me, sneaking in to steal your copy. Anyway, we had a question, by the way, came from Mike asking, what do you think of the Andrew Bird cover?
I love it whenever anybody covers me, to be honest. That's very nice. It's very flattering. We did a thing where I covered one of his and he covered one of mine, and it came out as I can't remember if it's 45 RPM or 33, but it's the size of a 45 single, you know, a little vinyl single, and it was so fun. I have much stronger memories of what my take on his song sounds like because I worked on it and you know, did it over and over again at the time, and I remember liking his. I just don't. It's been some years, and I can't remember a lot of details about.
And which tune did he do?
That one that we just played.
The one we just did. Okay, awesome.
So we'll have to maybe we can find a link that we can share with folks, so folks can listen to that version too.
Great question. If you guys have questions for Robbie, yeah, just put them in the comments, and we'll try to field them.
It's a good question and a bad answer. But we appreciate the question.
Well, we can't guarantee the answers will be good. We'll just guarantee that we'll ask them.
Yes.
I can say half of the answers are going to be, I don't remember.
Well, you know, this was only 2013, so hopefully we can, you know, dig back at least that far. Although someone was commenting that it's hard to believe it was even that long ago, because and you've only had one other record, I think, come out since this album.
No, I've had several.
Oh, you've had several. Okay, I'm wrong, but I was looking back on, and this is probably what I saw on the digital stuff under your name, but the one that came after this was vastly different, or one of the ones that came after is the one with Linda Gale Lewis in 2018, Wild, 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 which kind of has like, you know, boogie woogie and rock and roll and rockabilly kind of all happening into it. What was it like to sort of transition from doing this sort of string band thing to going back into that rock band kind of vibe?
Well, the record that came out directly after this one that we're discussing was it was called Upland Stories, and it was much more of a piece with Gone Away Backward. And in fact, the third one after that would have been much more of a piece, but the thing with Linda Gale intervened, and it was intended as my producing her record, and it morphed into a duo record over the year that we worked on it. So that was a little out of left field, but. Mm-hmm. But my general idea is to keep doing more music like this music that we're listening to.
And the Upland Story is another great one in that kind of vein. It was up for a Grammy, I believe, for Best Folk Album that year. and really, really great record. But I'm looking at the time, and I want to make sure we get tracks in on this
We're
one.
done.
And so, so now we're gonna actually start the album that I own. With a song that I just love. It's a song that the band I play in covers, and when we're playing music, we play it every show. It's just such a great tune. Anything you want to say about Long I Ride before we dive in?
No, let's get it over with.
All right, well, let's do it, folks. This is Long I Ride, Robbie Fulks on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
It's ryegrass in the winter time, flowers in the spring, but Texas in the summer is now suffering. I went up on Jackson Hill at a diner, I sat down, and I waved at every stranger just to move the air around. It's long to ride for the little I gain. She had silk brocade in her bedroom and a job that paid for two. I think I'll get down the old guitar and see what I may find. Get $1 on some lawyer on the number 7 line. It's a long to ride for the little I gain. In your hand, but a 6-string on your shoulder could be the devil's brand. Well, they'll put themselves above you, but for all the strut and brag, I'd trade every brick on Wall Street for one black mountain rag. It's a long to ride for the little I gain. Stole my heart and I think she'd like to know. Oh, but the road it goes but one way, and the only golden sight is to make a bit more in the daytime than I drink down at night. It's a long to ride for the little I gain. Sing right on key, but I went down and I never found one sang as good as me. And they say that there's a wondrous land for any good man that dies, and if it's got drinking women, well then I'll be surprised. It's a long to ride for the little I gain.
All right, Robbie Fulks here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Woo is right. That was Long I Ride from the 2013 release, Gone Away Backward. And that's the song, apparently, according to Tony, that kicks off the LP version, which is not what kicks off the digital version. And it's very different tenor, too. It totally sets a different stage than starting with I'll Trade You Money for Wine. So it's kind of cool.
It did. And dare I say, with Special Consensus, the band that Robbie was in, covering a great version of that, and other bands I'm hearing, it might just start becoming a new bluegrass standard, Robbie. Mm-hmm. So sorry about that, but
no, I'm pleased to hear it. It's great to have this. Definitely one of my most covered, if not my most covered ones. So very, very happy that it's this one, which I like. I like the song.
It's a great tune.
And speaking of covers, Jeffrey wanted to know about the High 48s covering Cold Statesville Ground. And of course, Tony is a member of the High 48s. And Robbie, what's your take on their cover of their song?
I'm sure it's much better than mine. Again, it's been some years, but wait, but you also covered. Did you also cover "Goodbye Virginia"? Did you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're fans, folks. We're
you
big
did a
fans
you did a
of
great
Robbie's.
job. You did a great
Yeah.
job on that one.
Thank you. That's been a kind of for our kind of crowd, one of our crowd favorites. We've had people that have specifically come up and request that numerous times. It's
Oh, nice.
such a great piece of writing.
Nice to hear.
And speaking of writing, we had a songwriting question here, which I think is really interesting from Jesse. Says asking how much of your lyric writing is ever autobiographical. The characters always seem so lived in.
Well, thank you. In the case of that last song, the guy is like me. He's traveled around all over the place. He complains a lot, so the sort of the tone of the narrator is like me, but the actual observations that he's offering are, I think a lot of them are plagiarized, so sometimes when people say things that I think are interesting, observations, opinions, or so forth, I'll stick them into the songs. And I'm trying to remember, there's something in the New York. Oh, yeah, I was talking to my oldest son. He's a grown man. He's 37 now. And I was telling him how much I like New York. I said, I just, there's something I love about living here, about being here, about the vitality of the city. And then I said to him, my opinion was that people are unusually nice and hospitable in New York, contrary to the stereotype. And he said, in his experience, he said, yeah, that ends as soon as it's not about a transaction anymore. He said, New York, they're very nice when the transaction's in progress. And then when it's over and the money's been traded, it's back to like being jerks again. Like that was his opinion. And so I didn't agree with that necessarily, but it sounded like meaty to kind of think about. It sounded like a strong observation. And so anyway, I threw it in the song, and I love hearing a challenging observation that is good for character use later, in a song.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Chris was asking about satellite radio. He said Mojo Nixon on satellite radio seems to like Robbie's music a lot. Has satellite radio helped spread the gospel of folks?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think that has helped. It's I did an event of theirs just before the lockdown started. It was the Outlaw Country Cruise down in Florida, and we sailed to Jamaica, and that was I think a full-scale immersion. My first one into the world of those idiots, on satellite radio. But it's been great, and I have noticed, just economically, that the checks have gotten bigger in the last couple of years due to that alone.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we want to make sure we can get to as many of these songs as we can before the show, because I know someone had a very specific question about one of your songs on this record, and we want to make sure we get to it. So the next one we have queued up is That's Where I'm From. Is there anything you want to say about this song before we jump in?
Well, it's like 6 minutes long, so if you want to cut it off, you can.
Well, this is one that, getting to that autobiographical piece, in my opinion, I'm clearly a fanboy, but this is like just a perfectly written country song as far as I'm concerned. I listen to it and it just works on all the levels, whether it's the music or the lyrics, and it just feels super real. And I would be curious how much of this is coming from your past experience and how much of it is just a good fiction writer.
Well, this one is 90% just stuff that happened to me. So this is an unusual song in that respect. I really just used stuff that happened to me.
Well, I think it comes through on this track. This is authentic, and that's good country music. This is Robbie Fulks. That's Where I'm From on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Back in the driveway, the end of the workday, and how fast that years. On a pine tree, a neighbor just like me that's worked all his life. A man climbs as high as he can, but his heart belongs where it began. I can see in my mind's eye a shack on a hillside and a mean billy goat on a chain. And Dad doing battle with dirt hard as gravel. Summers the crops never came. We'd shoot down a pheasant in flight and sing songs about Jesus all night. And that's where I'm from, where time passes slower. That's where I'm from, where it's yes ma'am and no sir. Can't tell I'm country, just you look closer. It's deep in my blood. Two cars, a picket fence, that's where I've come. Dirt roads and double wides, that's where I'm from. Night school on a fast track, no cause to look back. That place put a scar on my soul. And I swore my young ones would never know hunger, and the good life is all they know. Well, I've watched them grow, now I see one thing separates them from me, and that's where I'm from, where time passes slower. That's where I'm from, where it's yes ma'am and no sir. You can't tell I'm country, just you look closer. It's deep in my blood. White collar, necktie, that's where I've come. Half naked in the moonshine, that's where I'm from. If you've ever heard Hank Williams sing, well, you know the whole blessed thing. 'Cause that's where I'm from, where time passes slower. That's where I'm from, where it's yes ma'am and no sir. You can't tell I'm country, just you look closer. It's deep in my blood. A long way down a hard road, that's where I've come. Someplace I can't go home to, that's where I'm from.
right. Robbie Fulks, that's where I'm from his 2013 release, Gone Away Backward. And you're right, Tony, kind of a perfect country song.
It just hits you right
yeah. And
Are any listeners left? Or
no. In fact, Connie was like, I love this song. And, the mandolin on that is just so beautiful, and how it weaves in with the guitar. It just beautiful stuff. So who's playing on this track?
Well, may I mention who's playing on the whole record? It's just four other people. So the four people are Robbie Gerso, Ron Spears, Mike Bubb, and Jenny Scheinman. And Jenny sticks to fiddle, and I stick to guitar, and the other three switch around a little bit. So on that one, Ron was playing the mandolin, and Mike was playing the bass, and Robbie was playing the other flat top guitar. But on the previous one that we heard, Mike was playing the banjo. Mike's a great band. He's known as a bassist, but he's a really good Scruggs style banjo player too.
And was this all also in that same kind of Albini one room, very organic microphone setup?
The record is without overdubs, so there's a lot of stuff on that last one that I heard that I played that I would like to change this or that note, but you're kind of like committed to what you have under that setup.
Which makes it even more amazing, because I thought it was flawless in my listening of it. Sounds great. And a lot of folks liking it, Matt and Alan. And then Marty, our good friend, your fellow bandmate, the Venn diagram of Tony Ihrig and Robbie Fulks.
Yeah, well, Marty always says he took your spot in Special C. Good to see you, Marty.
He did. I mean, I might have offered it up a little bit, but he did take it. And I was the young buck in the band for a few years there. And then when I left, he might be even younger than me. And he certainly seemed it. He was full of energy and pizzazz.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, great to see all of you here.
Yeah, the last time I saw Marty was at the Winter Bluegrass Weekend here in Minnesota, which was probably the last big event I went to in March. And he and his daughter were selling Girl Scout cookies. That's what they do every Winter Bluegrass Weekend. It's the perfect audience. Everyone is dying for Girl Scout cookies.
That is $1 million idea, Marty. Good job. Selling cookies at a bluegrass festival.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even need to play in the bluegrass band. Just hawk the cookies and you're good to go. We did get a question from Zen Dixie about a song that we weren't going to play today, but I want to make sure the question gets addressed, and wanted to know what the inspiration for Imogene was on the record. Says it really gets stuck in my head and forces me to pick up the guitar.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, I would say the story inspiration was sort of a sexual obsession, maybe. And then the musical inspiration was Dave Van Ronk, probably more than anything else. So.
Nice.
Great stuff. And one thing I've been wondering about as we keep putting up that album cover, and of course the beautiful LP, big album art that Tony has. Tell us a little bit about this artwork, the photograph, and what inspired it.
Marcus Greiner is the name of the designer, and he found this photo somewhere. I think it's from a Kansas tornado, and somebody that lived through it. I have a memory of that person having emailed me and told me the name of the event and the year, but I don't remember that anymore. Essentially, this just landed in my lap, as some of Marcus's stuff does, and I said, "This is perfect." It really does illustrate the tone of the record very well.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. I like the backward R there. Nice
job.
Right. The little things.
Exactly. And well, this next song we have queued up is one that someone was asking about, The Many Disguises of God. And I don't know, Joe wanted to know about the song, and we actually had it queued up already. So what can you tell us about this track?
So this is when I mentioned we switched around a little bit, and on a couple songs, even though the record is almost totally acoustic, I think there's two songs that aren't, and this is one in which Robbie Gerso plugged in his trying to think, a Stratocaster, I guess it was, no, Telecaster, and a couple little pedals, and did this magic thing that he does, and it's a nice, like, contrasting flavor on this otherwise, pre-World War I sounding record.
All right. Yeah. Great question. Thank you so much. This is Robbie Fulks, The Many Disguises of God, on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Bright blazed the sun on the day you were born. Red ran the flowering vine. I felt it then like the prick of a thorn. Someone so tender and kind. Watching. I left your mother sleeping and still to walk for a while neath the sky. I climbed the side of a crooked old hill, reaching the crest I did spy. Soldiers. As you press on to the future's fair land, child, spare a glance back where you came. For over your cradle a lone figure stands. History tells us his name. Adam. Had you the wings of the angel you seen, o'er these hospital walls you would fly. My so-called crimes would go small like a dream, and there to your wondering eye, a mountain face lashed jagged by the sea. The plow's steady churn, the impress of hooves in the clay, a rusted gray shed, jammed with gunpowder and gold, a vine-clotted field where families once gathered to die, seaports, depots where the goods of all lands freely flow. A signpost to a town no longer there, an arrow, a sail that no man shot nor can slow, arms mighty and small, scrabbling ground looking for food, the on-rushing plains, the soft lights just beyond, 10,000 the same. One child who is not, they'd share by the wall, they're rocking the dreadful day through, the hand of love withdrawn, the many disguises of God, the many disguises of God, the many disguises of God.
Robbie Fulks here on the Back Catalog Listening Party with The Many Disguises of God from his 2013 release, Gone Away Backward, an album we're diving into today. And man, it's so great to just hear this in my headphones, and all the space in that song is so incredible. Like there's, especially in the beginning, where there's that little guitar and then there's a pause. It kind of was that pregnant feeling you have when you're in a music room, in that kind of listening room, and all of a sudden it gets really quiet and kind of uncomfortable. And I love that. And it just, it adds a great tension to it. And I thought that the electric guitar that you were talking about, which again isn't present on very many tracks on this album, really had the vibe of more of like a siren almost. It reminded me actually of that album cover. I was glad you talked about that, because I had this feeling of like a storm or this impending.
And I was kind of feeling like that drone of like a fiddle too. Like it's almost like that modern version of that. Yeah. So
they really tie together. It's hard at times to tell what's the fiddle and what's the guitar.
Yeah. Really interesting the way that those sounds come together and create that whole feeling. So when I'm listening to your lyrics, like I mean, I have to ask about. Do you read a lot, Robbie? Do you read a lot of books?
Yeah, the pandemic's been great for that. I've been just reading and reading.
Oftentimes when I there's a certain challenge that I have when I read good authors, where it forces me to use my brain. and there's very few songwriters where I actually have to use my brain a little bit after listening, and you're definitely one. Are there certain authors or maybe songwriters who have that kind of literature style that you listen to, or that you could cite as a influence, or that you, I don't know, try to emulate in any way? I mean, is there anything like that in your background, or is this just kind of coming up from just your kind of experiences over time?
Well, Tony, it's an easy question because when I was working on the songs for this record, I was working on songs for a musical that never came to be, but they were based on Flannery O'Connor stories.
Yes,
so
I can totally hear that.
Writing was exactly at the front of my head, and this song wasn't for that project, but the kind of narrator where Christian faith meets backwoods weirdness in the brain and comes out in a distorted and alarming way. That's what's going on in the lyrics to this song, where a guy is, in my mind, the scenario is the guy's abandoning his child and explaining to him how he's doing him a favor and how he'll be strengthened in the world against adversity, and also sort of explaining to him the nature of spirituality and of God. So that's the point of view of the song.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Awesome.
Yeah. And
Very
also,
cool.
it kind of makes sense, Flannery O'Connor too. Like your songs have such a short story feel to them. Like it's really a collection of short stories more than sometimes.
Some of them could be shorter yet, I think.
Well, I think they're the perfect length, and I just wish we had more time to explore more of them on today's show. But I do want to put in a plug for folks to buy this album, either the LP version or explore the digital version to compare and contrast. But definitely buy the album from Robbie. Yeah. Get the vinyl.
It really sounds.
I bet it does.
Different. And it sounds.
And especially for folks listening on Facebook and YouTube, you definitely want to hear a higher fidelity version of these songs. And since Robbie is just reading books these days, not performing much, you'll want to throw something in his tip jar as well. So we have, I know there's a Venmo, and so that's one way. Otherwise, again, you can.
Oh, look, they're flying in. All you had to do was say that.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's one of the big missions here at Back Catalog Listening Party is since we can't play live, we can appreciate all this art that's already been made. And yes, if you want to hear the next Robbie Fulks album, you gotta seed that tip jar, put a little cash in the hat, so he can. So 2021, we can expect great things, right, Robbie?
That's very generous. Thank you very much. And hello, Vaughn. I see Vaughn is in the group now.
Yeah, and we have one more song queued up from the album. Sometimes the grass is really greener, and tell us about that green grass, Robbie, out in California.
Yeah, another pretty autobiographical thing. I left home and took my dad's Martin with me and went to New York City. And the only different thing about this is that it goes on to finish the story that the guy gets his butt kicked in New York City and heads back home with his tail between his legs and stays back in Virginia, where he came from.
All right. This is Robbie Fulks. Sometimes the grass is really greener on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Dusty shack high in the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was tough work, brown dirt, and bluegrass songs. Sweet hickory filled the air. Daddy's love was hard but fair. If I knew how rich I was, I'd not have gone. Oh, but the city called my name and I came running. my daddy's old guitar. I played the dives and paid some dues, singing every tune I knew, and them homesick ones I sang the best by far. Now I've seen the sun go down on the streets of New York town, and I've watched it from the hills of old Virginia. Beauty's what the eye beholds, one man's dirt's another's gold. Oh, but sometimes the grass is really greener. Company man confessed he liked me. Oh, but he'd have to shave a few rough edges down. Cut my hair like Brooks and Dunn's, trade the banjo for some drums, 'cause no one would buy that old high lonesome sound. Now I don't know just what this deal's got me. I've gained not a fan and I lost the ones I had. I've worn my heart right through my sleeve, singing a song I don't believe. I believe I'll go back home to Mom and Dad. Now I've seen the sun go down on the streets of New York town, and I've watched it from the hills of old Virginia. Beauty's what the eye beholds, one man's dirt's another's gold. Oh, but sometimes the grass is really greener. Shack high in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and when I die it's on this farm they'll lay me down, and the hills will hear my song, 'cause it's there that I belong. Man, you just can't shake old roots from southern ground. Now I've seen the sun go down on the streets of New York town, and I've watched it from the hills of old Virginia. Beauty's what the eye beholds, one man's dirt's another's gold. Oh, but sometimes the grass is really greener.
All right. Sometimes the grass is really greener. Robbie Fulks here on the Back Catalog Listening Party from his 2013 release, Gone Away Backward. Lots of folks digging that and really showing the bluegrass roots for sure on that song. And for folks who maybe are new to Robbie Fulks and don't know his vast catalog, I obviously missed a couple albums that came out recently, but there are many that came before of all different kinds of genres. So you have some bluegrass in there. There's some country, rock, rockabilly, all kinds of different
Michael Jackson
stuff.
cover album.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So there's a lot to explore. So if you're new, you might want to check out, again, that website scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Otherwise, throw something in his tip jar. And Vaughn was asking about a next online performance. I don't think there's anything scheduled that we know about.
Yeah, I do the second to last Sunday of every month. I've been doing a thing through the Hideout in Chicago. So if you go to, I think it's either chicagohideout.com or hideoutchicago.com, the next one's coming up, whatever that date is in October, second to last Sunday.
Great.
Is that something that you link to your Facebook page? We could send people there too. So
Yeah.
you can find, since a lot of you are probably on Facebook right now, you can just go to Robbie Fulks Official, and he'll let you know when he's playing next.
And speaking of Facebook, we should let folks, I know a lot of folks are also tuned in through YouTube today, and we should mention that next week, I believe next week, right, Tony?
Yeah, this is it.
We're exclusively on YouTube. We'll have links to it from Facebook, so you'll be able to find it pretty easily. But this is because of Facebook's changing copyright policies. So we're going to be all on YouTube next week, and with Nate Dungan of Trailer Trash, which is like the preeminent rockabilly honky tonk band in Minnesota.
I haven't seen him in so long. Say hi to him.
Well, you should come and join us.
Yeah,
for
you
the
can say hi to
party.
him now. Yeah.
Okay. Will do.
Yeah, Facebook, it's funny, they changed their terms of service starting October 1st, and the one thing they don't want to do is they don't want anyone to create what they are calling, quote unquote, a music listening experience. And they said live music is okay, but I think our show is right in the crosshairs of creating what we call a music listening experience. And we want to thank all of you who are on Facebook right now for being part of this experience. This is not about just listening to music and interviewing awesome artists. Yeah, it's about all of us being here. I mean, I'm going insane every week, but on Friday at 4:00 my time, man, all of a sudden the world is right. I'm listening to tunes like I'm back in, junior high with headphones on and experiencing music with people the way it should be experienced. So I just want to say thank you so much. And for anybody who's on Facebook, go subscribe to that YouTube channel because we're going to keep this party going. I have a feeling we might need to for a few more months.
That's right. We're 27 episodes in, and we want to thank our Patreon supporters. Some folks have stepped up to support us monthly so that we can expand to more platforms, so that you can hear us whatever the social media does, we can still broadcast. So thanks to Penny, Ann, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, and our new patrons, Galen and Peggy. If you guys want to support the show, you can by going to the link there. But the most important thing is supporting the artists, the guest artists we have on the show, because this show would be nothing without them. So thank you, Robbie. So great.
Thanks for having me. It's fun to hear all this old music again.
Oh man, this has really made my week, and kind of set me up for a good weekend of listening. And we did have one person who tried to buy vinyl on your website and it was sold out. Is there any other places that you can think of that you could find this?
I wonder. Oh, now that you mention it, I think the label did run out and did not repress this on vinyl. So after all that talk, I think that's true. That this.
So you have to find it on eBay, or if you live in the Twin Cities, stalk Tony. And,
yeah, well, maybe after this whole pandemic is over, we'll have an in-person listening party, and we'll spin this. And we can all hang out and
we will post the track order from both the vinyl, so you can just compare. And if you want, you can sort of redo your playlist, so you can try and listen to it both ways if folks are curious. So
the CD sounds great. That's all I got to say.
Yeah,
yes,
so that is available, and again available on the digital platforms as well. And thanks all for joining us today. And such a treat. This was great.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much.
And maybe next time we see you, it will be at a real show again, at a real festival, or
we'll sneeze on each other's face and have a good time.
That'd be great.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody who joined us. Thanks again, Robbie. And we'll see you next week on the Back Catalog Listening Party.